Coming up on this edition of Quincy in Focus.
You can go onto the Secretary of State's website, or you can certainly go onto our website at quincyma.gov.
Quincy voters were at the polls for the state primary election.
We would like to recognize a group of 40 people who have gone particularly above and beyond in the service of survivors.
Dove marks 40 years in the city of Quincy.
Our motto is Quincy Recreation, Sports, and More. Tonight we celebrate the more.
And the visual arts take center stage during the city's annual Arts Fest weekend. These stories and more coming up on Quincy in Focus.
Hello and welcome to Quincy in Focus, Quincy Access Television's news magazine show. My name is Richard Davis, and I'm a student from Salem State University interning here at QATV this semester. Leading off this edition, over 1,000 people attended the dedication ceremony of the much-anticipated Hancock-Adams Common in Quincy Center. Guest speakers included Governor Charlie Baker, who spoke about John Hancock, and author David McCall, who talked about the importance John Adams had in the founding of this country.
At a very young age, John Hancock was a wealthy merchant and landowner, maybe the wealthiest person in New England. He was a person of privilege. He did business with the governments of Massachusetts and the King of England. He was the kind of person who usually became a loyalist to the crown of King George. For him, all that began to change with the Stamp Act of 1765. When the Massachusetts delegates gathered in January of 1788 to vote on ratification of the Constitution, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut had already ratified the document. The others were watching the action in Boston closely. The turning point came when Hancock proposed that Massachusetts recommend several amendments to the Constitution, including the Bill of Rights. This gave voice to the anti-federalist concerns, and after his longtime partner, revolutionary leader Samuel Adams, voiced his support for Hancock's proposal, the two turned enough votes to ratify the document. Historians can sort out who mattered most, when, and why. But it's pretty hard for me to imagine how the United States of America happens without John Hancock. His money, his influence, his connections, his courage, and his willingness to risk it all for freedom and the revolution made it possible for so many others to fit into the mosaic that became the overthrow of the most powerful nation in the world. And while he was not a military hero, he was a founding father for sure, and the first and third governor of its most influential state. He was a great man, one worthy of this memorial, and I know I speak for many when I say how grateful I am to the city of Quincy for your commitment to his memory.
In the rotunda of our Capitol in Washington, there is an enormous painting by the great John Trumbull of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It measures 12 by 18 feet. And if you look at the painting with any sense of composition, at the very center of the canvas, which you can calculate by drawing diagonals from one corner to the other, at the very center is the only figure who is portrayed full scale, head to toe. And he's in the exact center, and there's no question that the painter, the artist, is telling us who of all these people mattered most. And it's John Adams. And John Adams was the only founding father who became a president of the United States who never owned a slave. He and his wife, like so many of the descendants of the original English Puritans who settled this part of our country, was an abolitionist to the heart and soul. They would not go along with that, and they never gave up. And the next president in the lineup, who never owned a slave, was John Quincy Adams. It's been 20 years since I wrote my biography of John Adams, but I am still finding, and particularly in the incredible stories such as I'm writing now, how great his influence and the influence of those his contemporaries has been in our country. And we must never forget that.
The City of Quincy and the Quincy Art Association held the annual Art Fest celebration at Adams Field in September. In addition to thousands of people viewing art in all mediums, the weekend included honoring award recipients and a concert by the Quincy Symphony Orchestra.
So we come here to Adams Field, a baseball field that was set aside to celebrate the arts. This is the 21st year that we have done so. Last year, the 20th year, our motto was "See How We've Grown." If we had a motto this year, it would be "See How We Keep Going." We're growing and growing.
A word of thank you, word of gratitude to the folks at the Art Association. You add a touch of class to our city. We're grateful for all your work. I know you're a nonprofit, you work hard, and this is a great weekend to show off your good work. And I just want to congratulate everyone that participated. Congratulate those that will be getting awards tonight. Thank you for your participation in the show. I think it's one of the great weekends.
This event started with a passion and eagerness of a few dedicated Quincy artists and Mr. Koch from the Parks Department, who wanted to give the arts a place to shine in this great city. Well, they made it happen. I was lucky enough to be there when it started, and here we are tonight. So we're surrounded by incredible talent and beauty, and really this is a night to celebrate. So thank you everybody who's out here tonight with us.
An active shooter symposium was recently held at the National Fire Protection Agency in Quincy. The program was designed to help communities develop a response plan to address active shooter scenarios.
Active shooter incidents are happening with a greater frequency and greater veracity. So when a fire chief in Orange County, Florida, after the Pulse nightclub mass shooting that occurred in his community, he called us and said, "There's more we can do. We responded. We brought the right people to the table, did that in an expedited manner, and we did that so that we could develop NFPA 3000, a standard for active shooter and hostile event response programs. It's the world's first standard around active shooter, and it's designed to help communities to be able to holistically plan, respond, and recover from these events. Now, without question, schools and campuses have been by far the most engaged audience, and that's not surprising, considering the lives that you're entrusted to care for at those schools. If there is only one thing that you remember from today, it's that meeting the challenges of active shooter incidents is not work that can be done in silos. It is work that has to be done together.
Best practices practiced ultimately end up being far more successful than best practices not understood or not known or never practiced. And I think a big part of what this is about is giving people an opportunity to get a sense from the pros about what best practices look like and to get guidance about how they can take those best practices and practice them themselves. We all know that practice makes perfect, and I think in some respects, when you're dealing with issues like this one, having an opportunity to collaborate, work together with your colleagues in public safety and fire service, emergency management, and education to ensure that you're doing everything you possibly can to understand both the opportunities and the risks that are associated with this type of thing is exactly what we should be doing here in the Commonwealth. What is it that we here in the Commonwealth can be doing to build on our already, I would argue, very robust infrastructure with respect to dealing with some of these issues? And it's about a $72 million proposal. We submitted it to the legislature about 4 or 5 months ago. As Dan pointed out, we did a big event on this in Burlington at their high school a few weeks ago. But the essence of it, number one, the schools were looking for help and assistance associated with counseling and mental health services. And the biggest piece of this proposal is a $40 million investment in those services at the K through 12 level to help schools help kids deal with some of the issues that are usually present when we have situations and circumstances like this. The second was a $20 million matching grant program to do a lot of the things that this best practice initiative would help schools do to make their buildings and their operations more secure and safer. And that could be a whole variety of things. It could involve surveillance cameras, it could involve points of entry, it could involve windows. I mean, there's a whole bunch of elements to it. But one of the things we heard from our folks at the local level was we would like to be able to partner with the Commonwealth on doing things to make our buildings safer and more secure. There's also funds in there to support additional training, again, around this idea that practice makes perfect for everybody who's involved in the school resource officer program, and a whole series of other elements as well. But this is a package that we developed based on guidance, discussions, and conversations we had with our colleagues in education and in local government. And we believe that it's the type of thing we should be doing here in Massachusetts to prevent and engage in ensuring that we're doing all the things we need to do to keep kids safe here and to keep our schools safe.
Governor Charlie Baker was among the gathering of local and state officials attending a ceremonial environmental bill signing held recently in the city.
We think it's really appropriate for us to be here in Quincy to sign this because we had a chance to tour Quincy with the mayor, and we spent some time in some neighborhoods that had been unbelievably badly damaged by that series of nor'easters that ripped through the Commonwealth earlier this year. Here in Quincy, the impact was overwhelming and significant, and Lieutenant Governor and I and others had a chance to meet with a number of the folks on the team here, both public and private, both local and state and federal, and to go through some of the issues and the circumstances and the situations that they were dealing with as they battled their way through those storms. Talked to a lot of the homeowners out there, and the overwhelming message that I heard from them over and over again was, you know, I've been here for 50 years, I've been here for 40 years, I've been here for 60 years. I've never seen anything like this. And there was a certain hope in that statement that maybe I won't see anything like this for another 40, 50, or 60 years. But I think most of us believe that just the opposite is probably true, and that we need to be very aggressive about developing strategies and approaches that are particular and specific to the different parts of the Commonwealth to address and to deal with these issues that are associated with climate change. And the work that our team, that Secretary Beaton and his team put in on this bill, and the work that the legislature did on it, is fundamentally important to so many elements of the future success of the Commonwealth. And I really appreciate the fact that the legislature took a number of the elements associated with that executive order we wrote on climate change, especially around municipal vulnerability planning and hazard mitigation work, and codified that. I also really appreciate the legislature's decision to fund the adaptation and resiliency piece at around $500 million, and to get very aggressive about the money to support both environmental protection and recreational assets as well, that was part, and natural assets that was part of that legislation. And I also appreciate the fact that that one managed to get to us before the end of the formal session. We now have a great opportunity to work on pursuing the elements of that legislation and to turn the good intentions and the high aspirations that are associated with that legislation into reality for communities and citizens around the Commonwealth, and we look forward to having that opportunity to do so.
All across Massachusetts this morning, there are kids out and about in camps, in summer camps. They're out in the woods, and I had the opportunity earlier today to visit one of those camps. And when you talk about the environment, it is resiliency, it is making sure that we're doing what we can do for climate adaptation. All those things are so very important. But we can't lose sight of the fact that today, again, there are kids out in the woods playing archery, kickball, swimming in our ponds. We owe it to them to make sure that we are the good stewards, as the Senator mentioned, of the environment here in Massachusetts.
I think the key word I hear today is collaboration. Everybody working together, whether it's our environmental groups locally, like Friends of Wollaston Beach, working with our city councilors on projects that draw jurisdictionally with our parks, our playgrounds, our beaches, and up to the beautiful Blue Hills. We've got a lot of natural resources to protect and preserve. So to be a small part of this today is very gratifying.
The local guy. It's your district. Okay? We have a lot of work to do, but I really appreciate the work everybody did to give us a platform, a framework, and the authorization to get a lot of this done. Thank you very much.
Dove, Domestic Violence Ended, recently marked its 40th anniversary in the city of Quincy, with a recognition ceremony of the 40 different companies, agencies, and organizations that have helped fulfill its mission. Among those honored was Quincy Access Television.
Each and every one of you here is special to us, and again, taking an active role just by being here in ending domestic violence. And that said, we would like to recognize a group of 40 people who have gone particularly above and beyond in the service of survivors. 40 community partner honorees recognized in celebration of Dove's 40 years. In 2011, Dove did a strategic plan, and at that time recreated or re-envisioned our mission, which I'd like to read now. Dove is committed to partnering with diverse communities, families, and individuals impacted by domestic violence. We promote hope, healing, safety, and social change by providing a broad range of preventive and responsive services. In this calendar year, given some of the divisiveness of the current environment, Dove took another step and created what we call a statement of welcome and affirmation. This statement really embodies the spirit of Dove as we think about moving forward. There's so much to celebrate in terms of our history, and we're also really looking forward. Our statement of welcome and affirmation. Dove provides services to individuals impacted by domestic violence and welcomes refugee and immigrant survivors, both documented and undocumented, people with disabilities, people who are deaf or hard of hearing, people of color, and LGBTQ and gender nonconforming individuals. We are working hard to build community. Rather than just providing services, We really want to engage community, build community, foster health and well-being, healthy communities, and move forward with a vibrant future. Finally, last but definitely not least, the Dove staff are literally the embodiment of the mission. The staff go above and beyond every single day, and together they are greater than the sum of their parts. I am blessed to go to work with them every day where they strive to provide hope, healing, safety, and social change to the individuals and communities that we work with. Honorees, for your commitment to Dove's mission and for your very generous contributions of time, financial support, talent, and good works, we honor you in celebration of Dove's 40th anniversary.
Lieutenant John Steele of the Quincy Police Department was recently promoted to the position of captain at a ceremony held at Quincy City Hall.
I, John Steele,
I, John Steele,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and I will support the Constitution thereof,
and I will support the Constitution thereof.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I, John Steele,
I, John Steele,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as captain of the Quincy Police Department,
as captain of the Quincy Police Department,
according to the best of my abilities
according to the best of my abilities
and understanding,
and understanding,
agreeably,
agreeably
to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
and the laws of the Commonwealth,
and the laws of the Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of the City of Quincy.
and the ordinances of the City of Quincy.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I, John Steele,
I, John Steele,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Congratulations.
The recent state primary election gave QATV the opportunity to chat with City Clerk Nicole Crispo at Quincy's newest polling location and report on Quincy's voter activity.
Nicole, if you could talk about this particular polling location, it's a change from the past.
It is. So this is our first time here at the Fort Square Presbyterian Church at 16 Pleasant Street here in Quincy from the Quincy Career Center. So we're happy that they're having us, and it's very comfortable here. The air conditioner's on, and we put out the signage and we put the ads in the paper, and we're very happy with it.
And you talked about potentially it hitting about 88 potentially today. I guess there's still potential for that. So certainly in a place that has AC is a big deal for folks who get out and vote today.
Absolutely. Some of our schools do not have air conditioning, and we've been around this morning and they're hot. We're trying to get everybody as comfortable as we can with fans and all that, but that we're doing what we can.
Talk about maybe the voting from this particular point forward. I know there was a tally that was done at around 10 a.m.
Yeah, so our 10 a.m. phone calls are in, and we have about 3% of our voters out so far.
And you had projected anywhere between 10 and 12?
10 and 12%. And we're open, all day. We're here till 8 p.m., so we encourage everybody to get out and vote.
Talk about from this point on, if someone hasn't registered to participate in this election, they can register to participate in the November election.
Of course. So we're taking voter registrations. You can do it online. You can do it in our office. And we have voter registration up until October 17th at 8 p.m. So please, also the RMV. So please register, and the November 6th election will be the state election.
And if folks are not sure if they are in fact a registered voter, what can they do?
You can go onto the Secretary of State's website, or you can certainly go onto our website at quincyma.gov, and there's a link there to check, and it also will give you where you vote.
Early voting didn't play in this primary election, but it will play in the final, correct?
That's right. October 22nd, we will have 11 days of early voting. Still to be determined where, and as soon as we make that determination, we'll let the public know.
That's all for this edition of Quincy in Focus. On our next episode, look forward to early season football highlights from Quincy and North Quincy high schools. Also, we'll have coverage of a recent press conference and the groundbreaking of a new Quincy Masonic building in Quincy Center. For more information about Quincy Access Television, visit our website at qatv.org or call 617-376-1440. My name is Richard Davis, and thank you for watching this edition of Quincy in Focus.